All right, guys. Good evening from North Carolina. Fortunate to have Fieldcraft Survival have me do this webinar for digital preparedness. So this is a little bit out of the norm for Fieldcraft Survival because they are about everything survival. Well, in the 21st century, we're talking about a different type of survival that a lot of us are not very familiar with. We know it's important, but a lot of us don't pay attention to it because the internet is just something that if it works, it's good. We know people get hacked all the time, but so that's why we're doing this. So I'm glad you guys joined. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and get into this and talk about myself real quick. So just for the sake of introductions, again, I'm Pat Wiley I'm the owner and founder of Green Hat Solutions. It is a cybersecurity company. I'm a 20-year retired Army veteran. Formerly a Special Forces Communications Sergeant, 18 Echo, and then a Special Forces Intelligence Sergeant. Retired out of 3rd Special Forces Group, did some awesome stuff while I was there. I had a good time, and I actually ran in a few times with Mike Glover and Kevin Owens and a few others from Fieldcraft Survival. So this was just destined to happen that I would eventually start working with these guys. So I'm definitely honored to have Fieldcraft sponsor this. As far as the cybersecurity piece, so I've been doing cybersecurity for a little over 12 years because I have the tactical experience and I have the cybersecurity experience. I've basically translated that and tried to find a way to distill that so I can bring all this information that I know to you guys with a tactical mindset. And because I once upon a time I was a trigger puller, I found a way to translate this to a lot of the knuckle draggers that I work with on a day-to-day basis. Just some of the work that I've done. So I've done and still do classes for teenagers. So I'm good at teaching people how to secure their network, secure their personal devices, because these threats are everywhere. These are things that we typically that we're used to seeing or touching or hearing a threat. But when we're talking about cyberspace, it's a completely different game. So this is all about digital preparedness. So one thing I wanted to lead off with for you guys, just something I did recently in the past. So a good friend of mine out in Tennessee, he's a owner of a brewery, and he challenged me. He was like, "Hey, Pat, I want to see, just come do a security assessment. And if you can get in, by all means, I'll buy you a beer." And I was like, "Well, if you buy me a few more, if I get a lot of stuff?" And he's like, "Absolutely." So the challenge was given and I accepted the challenge. So did a little homework and found out that he unfortunately had some Wi-Fi cameras. He had Wi-Fi cameras that were outside of his building, and just like a good guy with tactical sense, he had covered all his blind areas, and he had cameras inside of his brewery as well. The biggest problem with that is it's wireless, and by reputation, a lot of people know me as a wireless hacker. I'm all about cracking into networks and all things wireless. So because he had these wireless cameras, so I want you guys to see that little set of pictures that you see on the screen. So this was back in November of last year, and this is around 5:30 in the evening. So if you guys pay attention to these timestamps, this is at 5:30. So that top left picture that you guys see, you see a car approaching. Well, within just a few seconds, I disabled the first camera, and as my car got closer, I disabled another one and get a little bit more, and I disabled all the cameras. This basically covered my entry into the building, and he never knew I was coming. So he knew a car was driving by, but he never knew what that car was doing. And for his situational awareness, I had him watch this live from a different location. And sure enough, he was pretty damn scared. He was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know this was possible." But I didn't stop there because I do a lot of physical entry as well. I kept his cameras disabled on the outside, and then I eventually broke into his brewery, which, as tempting as it was, I kept doing my job and not pouring myself a good drink of beer. So as you guys can see, I disabled a couple of his indoor cameras. And I just gave him a preview by not disabling one of the cameras that allowed him to see me walking around in his brewery. But bottom line, again, you guys see me there. I'm walking through his building, and it got to the point where I was able to break into his office with very little effort. And I was basically able to cover my tracks the entire way from a digital perspective. So it's just a good thing. Once I revealed everything that I gotten from him, he was pretty convinced that he needed to change his awareness for digital operations and his cybersecurity awareness. So what we're going to cover in this webinar is we're going to cover a few things. First, starting off with the hacker mindset, just so you guys are aware. So hackers in general. So it's a bad moniker that a lot of people have, but that term hacker it could be good people, it could be bad people, right? Hackers in general, they're all driven by intrigue, curiosity, and challenge. So when I see something that I can't get into, I always ask why. Why can't I get into this? Or is there a way to get into this? How can I find a way? What's the weak point? It's very similar to the tactical operations that I've been in my special forces career. What really separates the good and the bad is just basically the upbringing. It's people knowing right from wrong. So there are good hackers out there that they basically develop ways to harden your networks, harden your devices. They do classes like this, and they try to get the information out there as best they can. And then you have the ones with not so good moral compass, and they will go out there and they will seek to destroy. So for those hackers that are out there to get that information and potentially make a profit off of it, what they're looking for is low-hanging fruit. And one of the things I want you guys to understand is that hackers, a lot of them they're very lazy. Okay, they're lazy because they like low-hanging fruit. If you make yourself hard to hack, if you make it so frustrating for a person like me, except with no morals, I'm going to leave you alone and I'm going to move on to an easier target. Okay, so think about your parents or your grandparents or something like this, where back when their childhood, they didn't have all these computers, and the technology has been developing fast, so fast that a lot of people can't catch up. So again, don't make yourself low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to go over some things that you guys can implement right away so that you can kind of harden your networks, harden your devices. And so when we talk about your guys' attitudes, this is what I run into a lot of the times when I talk to people. They're like, hey, I've got nothing to hide. So why would anyone go after me? Or I'm not that interesting, or I've got nothing to hack. My life's an open book. I love these people. I love it when they say it, because that just tells me that their guard is down. A funny story about this particular office, Fieldcraft Survival. Yesterday, I came to the office and Kevin he put me on the wireless network. And first thing I do, this is probably kind of a teller why I don't have many friends, is because I hack all my friends and I hack everything they got all the time. So yeah, my group of friends, my wolf pack's pretty small. But what I did was I was able to get into his router settings, and I was like, hey, Kevin, you might want to change your password to get into your router. And he's like, what are you talking about? I gave you the password. I'm like, no, bro, it's a different password to get into your router to set those configurations. So, in the past, I've seen people like, hey, they'll name their network something like Get Your Own or something like that. And I'll laugh, because if they give me their network, if I can get into the router, I'll go ahead and change it to Got My Own, and kind of ruin their day a little bit, but I always help everybody that I hack. So kind of a funny story, a little bit of dark humor, but that's how I roll. So just keep in mind, don't devalue yourself. You are a target. And the biggest thing you guys want to pay attention to is creating those speed bumps in the parking lot, because those things are designed to slow cars down. You want to apply that same mentality to your everyday life with all your digital devices, to include your phone, your laptops, your kids' devices, even things like your PlayStation, Xboxes, if you do gaming, stuff like that. And again, I'll be going into some of that stuff. So along with the hacker mentality, let's go ahead and go on with something a little bit more practical for you guys. So when we talk about passwords, this is often the first, the last, and the only barrier between you and your data or your accounts or anything like that. So from my experience, what I do is, if I'm able to gain some sort of access to a password, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see where else that password works. Passwords are, let's talk about some of the key characteristics of passwords, okay? If you think about it, passwords are typically related to one of three things. There's something you are, something you have, or something you know. And if you think about that, and hopefully I'm actually glad I can't see you guys, because some of you guys are probably like, oh man, he's talking about my password. So let's go ahead and take this a step further. Because we've been to school, we've been trained to use words, and we have training in those words in English. So a lot of times what I see is when people build a password, they'll build a password starting with the English word. And because we've all been trained to capitalize the very first letter in a password, they'll go with that logic. You'd be surprised how many people follow this logic. And if you're one of those people, just keep that in mind. So what do people do along with passwords? They might choose a couple different English words, and they'll also append some sort of numbers. These are typically numbers that are related to birthdays or number of kids or some number that is significant to them. And then when, some people will use special characters. Well, I will tell you the most commonly used special characters are exclamation point, @ symbol, $, and $. Just because people are I don't know why, they're just scared to go beyond the number 5 on the keyboard. Or they don't understand the function of those keys. But so when we're talking about passwords, the biggest thing you want to consider is size matters. Size matters. You want a big, long, strong password with numbers, letters, and all that good stuff. Quick question. I'm glad I definitely want to encourage you guys to ask questions, but the question came up right now. Is it safe to use free password management apps like LastPass? And I'll answer that here in a second. Well, I'll go and answer it now. So with password managers are a great tool. However, there's always a but. Password managers are great. They incorporate a way for you guys to not have to memorize a whole bunch of passwords. Believe it or not, I'm old enough to have been that type of kid that when I grew up, I knew like 16, 20 different phone numbers of my best friends. And then these things came out, and now they're like 80% of my IQ. And I know about 1 or 2 numbers. So with password managers, I will tell you guys some of the things you need to look for with password managers like LastPass. It is a great application. The critical point of failure with any password manager is that master password. So you want to apply that same stringent rules to that master password that will store all of your other passwords. Things like LastPass, KeePass, Dashlane, GorillaPass, they're all pretty good. I definitely recommend they're better than terrible passwords or using the same password over and over. They do have features that will allow you to create, the app will create passwords for you, and they will automatically rotate passwords for you. So I hope that answered your question as far as using password managers, specifically LastPass. As you guys can see on that slideshow, there's a list of the 50 most used passwords. Okay. Now these are very common. They're used all over the place. And I will tell you guys, the password lists or password dictionaries, as they're called in the hacker community, these password dictionaries, they can get very, very long. Okay. At any given day, I walk around on my laptop. I have several password dictionaries or word lists. Some of them in the millions, some of them in the billions, and I just have them ready to go and throw it at something for the sake of research, right? By the way, I don't hack in anybody without their permission. And if I do, I'll make sure it's a really good friend that I know that won't punch me in the face. So, so some of the resources that I do want to make you guys aware of, that if you're not already aware of them, there's 3 bullets down there that says, have I been pwned, Firefox monitor, and brute force calculator. So real quick, I'm going to show you guys just some examples of these particular sites. So this website that I'm showing you guys right now, this is a website called Have I Been Pwned? And if you're not familiar with it, it's actually, so the guy that started this, his name's Troy Hunt. He has basically combined a repository of every breach that he can get his hands on. And he's basically made a central repository so that you can plug in your email to see if you've ever been hacked or a part of any compromise. So what I will do for you guys, I'm going to go and throw an old email that I used to use. So you guys will, matter of fact, there it is. don't bother sending me emails. I won't check it. So you can just ignore this one, even if, as much as you guys like me. So real quick, it's just as simple as plugging in an email address and clicking on this little letter pwned, right? So what you'll see is this old email address that I used to have. It says, "Oh no, pwned." And if I scroll down a little bit, just to show you guys, it says breaches you were pwned in. So Adobe Acrobat, they had a breach in 2013. My email was exposed. Moving on down, LinkedIn, they had a compromise in May 2016. Another one, MyFitnessPal, because I like to keep log of my workouts. February 2018, they were on MySpace because I like to take other people's original content and call it my own. I don't mess around with MySpace anymore, but so this is just a good example of this site. So I would encourage you guys to use this. There's no logging of your email address. He just checks it, or this database checks to see if you're in their database. So nothing is stored if you punch it in there. You guys are safe to use this. There's no threat of anything, but I do highly encourage you guys. And if you are in this list and you are in a recent compromise, I highly encourage you guys to go ahead and change your passwords and stuff like that. So another one just to point your attention to is this one called Firefox Monitor. Works the same way as Have I Been Pwned. It's another one that you can just plug your email address in. It has a different database, but these are the two biggest ones that I pay attention to for both myself and my family. So again, I'll just plug in the email address and you can see whether or not you're a part of a security breach. All right, let's go ahead and let's go back to this presentation real quick. All right, brute force calculator. That's actually one last thing I wanted to share with you guys. So let me go ahead and go back to the this little web browser real quick. All right, so brute force calculator. This particular one, let me see if I can find
Pat,
it.
real quick,
Sure.
There's a question here that might be helpful for people. So it says,
Yeah.
is the source code of Have I Been Pwned open source?
So no, it is not open source. So the Carson, thanks for asking. So with Have I Been Pwned? So again, Troy Hunt, he's a very popular guy on Twitter, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. But his code that he's put together, again, he's just put together a long list, and it's really just databases. And once you plug in your email, he's just using it to query his database. So no, it is not open source to my knowledge. However, I will say this. Let me go back to Have I Been Pwned real quick. Let's see. Let me go back one. All right, it didn't show up, but the list that he has them by name. Some of them are called compilation or breach list or something like that. They are publicly accessible. Now, when I say publicly accessible, that does not mean they're easy to get. They are typically something you have to find on the dark web, but there are sites out there that have these lists that they're basically encrypted, and it takes someone with a good amount of knowledge to, number one, get on the dark web, number two, find the information, and number three, pull it down with a exceptionally large hard drive. So hope that answered your question. So no, it's not open source to my knowledge. They have another question here. Are you going to share? OSINTframework.com. So I believe OSINT framework is by Mike Bazell. No, I did not anticipate covering it, but I definitely will. If OSINT framework is the one I'm thinking about. So the OSINT framework, again, is open source intelligence that's written by Mike Bazell. He's a huge privacy advocate, does a lot of good stuff. I'm not sure if OSINT framework is one of his projects as well. But Peter, I hope that answers your question. I didn't, if we have some time at the end, I can go explore it with you guys, and we'll see. All right. So let's see here. Let's go back to this. All right. So let's talk about, along with passwords. So we beat the dead horse on passwords. All right. So make sure you use a good, long, strong password. Make sure it's, when I say passwords, actually, let me go ahead and cover this. It's always a better idea to use passphrases. Okay. That's the trend that's going out. So make it a sentence, something that you guys would, hey, where do you want to go to lunch today? Make it an actual sentence that you have to type in. And then again, you want to do some sort of character substitution, include numbers and all that good stuff. But again, when it comes to passwords, size matters. The longer, the better. All right, so let's talk about two-factor and multi-factor authentication. And guys, I cannot stress this enough. This is a must-have feature in today's world with all the threats that are going on. If you do not use two-factor or multi-factor authentication, you absolutely need to make this a part of your digital portfolio. Okay. For those of you that do, some of us had, when we first got introduced to two-factor authentication, it always resorted to, hey, we'll just send you a text message, which is good. It's better than nothing. However, there have been known exploits or known hacks out there that if someone hates you enough and they have enough knowledge, they can actually redirect your text messages to go through them before it gets to your phone. So just keep in mind that, thanks. So just keep in mind when we're talking about two-factor authentication, when you get that text message, you get that little 6-digit PIN or something like that. In order for you to get that second form of authentication, it has to come from somewhere in the internet or some other company through the cellular infrastructure. So in transit, it can be intercepted by somebody. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So what I do recommend is for you guys to use these things called authenticator apps. If you're not familiar with them, there's several of them out there, okay? Some of the more popular ones, Duo Mobile. My personal favorite is Authy because you can use it on a phone, you can use it on a laptop. And these type of authenticator apps, they work on this thing called time-based protocol. All this means is that it's on a timer and it puts a new pin out every minute or so. This is like a one-time pad or a single type of encryption, and it never gets transmitted anywhere. So once you get a two-factor notification, you just open this little app up like Authy or Duo, and you punch in that pin. It's never transmitted anywhere, so there's no possible way of interception. So some of the other ones, Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, these are all things that I highly encourage you guys to definitely make part of your digital portfolio. Some of you guys that like to have the tinfoil hat on, you'd like to take your security to the next level, you might be familiar with this thing called a YubiKey. YubiKeys, they just look like a little USB thumb drive you can put on your keychain, like you guys see on the screen. So basically, it's just you have to have that physical device present there in order to have that second form of authentication. They cost right around 40 to 50 bucks. They're available on Amazon. They are a good source. I don't use YubiKey. Like I said, I am a big fan of Authy. So it's just a matter of you start the process out on your smartphone, and as you obtain accounts and you want that multi-factor authentication applied, it's just as simple as scanning a QR code, and next thing you know, it syncs with all your devices, and then you can download it on a laptop, computer, anything like that, and it's all synced. So, and again, that second form of authentication or that PIN number never gets transmitted. So any sort of avoidance that we can get away from as far as like your information in transit or a form of authentication being in transit, that's what we want to get away from. So definitely hope that helps. Again, Duo Mobile, Authy, Google Authenticator, and Microsoft Authenticator. And for those that want to spend the money, have a hardware device, that YubiKey works as well too. All right, so let's talk about virtual private networks, VPNs. So I'm sure a good amount of you have heard some sort of advertisement for VPNs on whether it be a radio broadcast, on TV, or something like that. And I have, let's see here, I got something from Michael. He's asking about, what do you think about Proton Mail? All right, so yes, I'm going to cover Proton Mail and VPNs here shortly. I'll read the rest of your question, Mike. Give me a sec. So VPNs, they're absolutely necessary. Just like two-factor authentication, VPNs, this should be your norm. It should be a part of your everyday thing. If you're not using a VPN, especially if you travel, anything away from your home is not trusted. I use a VPN even when I'm inside my home. Let's see here. What about VPN for vehicles via Slate or Barrel? So yes, I will cover that as well. Yeah, Mike, I'll cover about VPNs and vehicles. So when we talk about VPNs, yes, they're very necessary. So a lot of what people worry about is cost. Well, this is another digital cost for my security. Guys, so most VPNs that are out there, they run anywhere from $90 to $120 a year. Okay. I think this is something that's definitely worth considering and budgeting for and making this a part of your security posture. Oh, the brute force calculator. Yeah, I think we did skip over that. Kevin, yeah, give me a sec and we'll cover that brute force calculator. It's a shiny tool and I will definitely show it to you guys. Let's see here, brute force calculator. Thanks, Kevin. Let me see here. As soon as this thing gets out of my way, I can switch tabs, maybe. There we go. And I hope you got, all right, yes, you guys can see that. All right, this brute force calculator. So this particular website, I just did a Google search for a brute force calculator. So quick note on this, guys, never choose a online brute force calculator that says, here, enter your password. That's a terrible idea. Never enter your password on anything that says, here, we'll check your password. So this particular one from TMedWeb, again, I just did a Google search for brute force calculators. So this is just designed to show you guys how quickly a password can be cracked. Now, this is kind of a rudimentary example, but for instance, let's go ahead and take the word password, right? Eight characters. Let's just go ahead and put a 8-character password because it's one of the most terrible passwords that people use all the time. So in this instance, this is based on an older PC that was built in 2007 with a, let me see here, not a huge load on the CPU, but it would say this would take about 4 hours to crack. I'll tell you guys, if you have password as your password, it takes seconds. Even some pretty decent passwords that have English words in them, they're not hard. And actually, a quick note about passwords. I'm glad you brought this up, Kevin. Is with Wi-Fi routers. So if you have a Wi-Fi router that you purchased from your ISP, your internet service provider, a lot of what I've seen recently is that Wi-Fi routers that are given out by the internet service provider, they will have 2 English words, they'll have three numbers, and they might have a couple special characters. And if you have one of these routers, you definitely want to pay attention to this, because if you look at those 2 words, they are some sort of combination of adjective, noun, or verb, or noun, or verb and adjective. The skinny on that is hackers can, and they do, and they'll pull down a list of every adjective in the English dictionary, every noun in the English dictionary, and there are tools that automate this process to mix and mangle words back and forth to give every possible combination of an English word. Again, there's tools that will automatically do standard character substitution. So if you think you're being clever with switching your A's to @ symbols, S's to $signs, there are programs out there to do that. So again, just to kind of hammer the point home, again, size matters, and make sure you have a good, long, strong password. So Kevin, I hope that answered your question. I think I have a couple more here. Let's see. Mike, I will get to your VPNs. Jack, please don't delete that one. I will get to the VPNs for vehicles. What's your feeling on Tor-enabled browsers? Tor-enabled browsers, I'm going to answer that at the end, Steve. Again, Jack, don't worry, don't delete that one. Lewis, let's see here. Are VPNs that are part of a virus program worth it, or is a separate one required? Lewis, that's a great question. Let me see if I can answer a couple of them in here at the same time. How to put a VPN on a network, how to keep Apple out of your phone notes for the reviews. Ooh, okay, that's a good one by Anonymous. All right, so let's see here. Let's go back to this presentation real quick, and I will try to address some of your guys' questions. Where'd my Q&A go? Right. All right. So Steve, let me address your question real quick with Tor-enabled browsers. So Tor, if you're not familiar with it, Tor is one of the web browsers that is, it is specialized software that allows you to access the dark web, as it's called. Guys, the dark web, and excuse my French, but the dark web is nothing but a older, slower, shittier version of the internet. So it's designed for anonymity. So if your goal is to remain anonymous, a VPN will do the job just fine. Tor is a multi-hop process in which you are sending your data through multiple hops throughout the world. And these hops are volunteers, okay? Volunteers could be anybody. They could be people from China. They could be people from Russia. And you have no control where your data is going in the Tor network. So while Tor, it is an option, it's a good option for several people, whether it's press or people that are refugees or something like that, even whistleblowers. Right? So a lot of people use Tor, but I don't recommend using Tor as your primary means of staying anonymous. Hope that helps, Stephen. So let's see here. VPNs for vehicles, I will cover that, Mike. So Steve, I think I got you on the Tor-enabled browsers. So thanks for asking. Are VPNs a part of the virus program? So Lewis, I will cover the VPNs here, but yes, to answer your question directly, you want to buy a VPN that is a standalone product. Okay, so any sort of bundling, or if you see VPNs that are like add-ons for browsers, just keep in mind a VPN that's added on to a browser does not encrypt everything on your computer. Okay, so VPN add-ons on a browser will only encrypt browser traffic that, for instance, you have Firefox or Chrome. If you put a VPN add-on, it will only encrypt that web browser. Everything else that you have going on, if you have a Facebook app, Instagram app, any sort of social media, any sort of games, chat platforms, those add-ons for those VPN add-ons, they will not work outside of the browser. So it's definitely worth, Lewis, it's definitely worth getting a standalone VPN service. And I'll go over some of the more popular vendors out there, and I'll even tell you guys what I use personally. So Lewis, thanks for asking. Let's see here. Let me go through a couple more. How to put a VPN on your network, how to keep Apple out of your phone and photos. That's how do you keep Apple out of your business? Well, I'll kind of give you the smart aleck answer is don't use Apple, but Apple's a good product, not to shame on Apple. They have a good product, but so with just about any tech provider, they're going to have these end user license agreements or EULAs, and basically you have to agree to them. So once those agreements, if you guys ever have a good stiff drink and a lot of time to read those user terms and agreements, they're going to say we need access to this. So yeah, you can't always hide everything from Apple. But again, so you can choose not to have your photos stored online. You can actually turn that feature off on a Apple laptop or an Apple phone to not have everything synced with the cloud. It's yes, it actually has to do with cloud storage. So if you turn off that feature, that is a way that you can turn it off. So I hope that helps, Anonymous. All right, Andrew, heard your session with Fieldcraft podcast. Thanks for listening. That's awesome, Andrew. Do you still suggest Viper VPN? Well, you spoiled my surprise, Andrew. So yes, I will talk about Viper VPN and why I choose Viper VPN. So Andrew, yes, thanks for covering that. I will cover it. Securing low-tech Bluetooth devices. Go buy a high-tech Bluetooth device. Chris, sorry, I'm a bit of a smart aleck. So securing Bluetooth devices. I will answer that at the end, Chris. So go ahead and Jack, if you could leave Chris's question up there because it involves Bluetooth, I'll cover it later. What about using it through a virtual machine? Ooh, there we go. All right. Michael's asking about virtual machines. So I'm not going to go into virtual machines too deep. However, yes, VPN, yes, even with a virtual machine, because a virtual machine, it depends. Guys, forgive me real quick. I'm going to nerd out. So it really depends on how you have that virtual machine configured. So if you have it in a bridged configuration, you definitely want a VPN. If you have it natted, so it's hiding behind your physical laptop or whatever, you're a little bit more secure, but still use a VPN. So Michael, hope that answers your question. Let's see here. Andrew Reynolds, can you integrate a VPN into your router to protect your entire home versus just one device? Yes, you can. Andrew, thanks for asking. So I will cover that. So there are firmware downloads, and Viper VPN actually provides that capability. So Andrew, to address your question, Andrew asked, can you integrate a VPN into your router to protect your entire home versus just one device? The answer is yes. However, this is a little tech heavy side. It requires you to flash your router. And there's a good possibility, if you don't know what you're doing, then you could brick your router. In other words, it will never work again, and it has the same value as a paperweight. So yes, there are options out there. One company that I'm very familiar with, Golden Frog, they actually make Viper VPN. They have whole home VPN solutions. So Andrew, thanks for asking. Hope that answered your question. Let me see, Michael. What about Invisibox router? So Invisibox router, actually, I'm not familiar with Invisibox router, but anytime, if this is any kind of travel router, travel routers, they're definitely a good thing to go with, especially if you're traveling a lot, on the move a lot. So just keep this in mind. Whenever you use a wireless router, travel router, any sort of router, that you're putting up another barrier, another firewall between you and everybody else. So to answer your question, while I'm not familiar with Invisibox routers, again, any sort of router that you can put in between you and somebody else, it is essentially a firewall, because just about every router out there is a firewall. So Mike, thanks for asking. All right, cell phone, Chris Sanford, cell phone VPN apps, do they include all app data? Yes, they do. All right, Chris, thanks for asking. So Chris asked, cell phone VPN apps, do they include all app data? To my knowledge, again, I use Viper VPN, and I'll show you guys some screenshots here shortly. And Chris, I'm going to hit your question, then I'm going to drive on with the webinar so I can make sure that I get through all the content, and then I'll go full board with all the questions and answers. So Chris, cell phone VPNs. To my knowledge, all my research has said, because I use Viper VPN, again, they do encrypt all traffic, and it doesn't matter whether you're connected via Wi-Fi or using the cellular radio, they will encrypt all traffic going out of your device, regardless of the app. And again, I'll go into some of the feature settings that you guys want to pay attention to, the VPNs. All right, so Q&A, I'll get back to it, but Mike, yeah, thanks for asking. All right, so let's see here. We talked about cost. Some of the things you guys want to consider when purchasing or shopping for a VPN. I'll tell you guys that every commercial, every VPN is businesses. It's a cutthroat business, just like anything else. They're all vying for your money. So with that said, they're all going to promise we don't store logs. They're all going to promise the fastest speeds. So let's go beyond those claims and let's go dive a little bit deeper. So this is really dependent on you guys and what are your needs. Okay, so points of presence is a huge thing. For instance, one of the things that people don't realize is that with VPNs, this is a good way to ensure you guys get the best price as a consumer. When I shop for airplane tickets, if I want to travel, I will make sure I use a VPN, and I will change my point of presence a couple different times. And in the next slide, I'll show you guys some examples. Simultaneous connections. This is another thing you want to pay attention to as consumers when you're shopping for VPNs, is how many devices can I put on this same VPN subscription at the same time? The standard numbers that you guys should expect to see from a good VPN provider is anywhere between 5 and 7 simultaneous connections. So it's basically saying I'm paying that $90 to $120 a year for my Viper VPN service. I have it on my phone, my laptop, and just about every device I own that I can. and I can have up to 5 of them on the same subscription, all using the same VPN service. Next thing is kill switch. So again, this is really dependent on what you're doing in your everyday life. So having a kill switch, if the VPN service dies, it will kill your internet as well. Now, depending on what you're doing, this might be something you don't want, but kill switch is a feature that it's saying, hey, I'm going to be protected, or I'm not going to be anything at all. So let's go on to this next one here. So this is an example of some of the points of presence that I was talking about. What's really good about VPNs is not just for the shopping piece, but Netflix is a good thing. So Netflix, they might not allow you to watch videos or stream movies in a certain country. Well, you can change your point of presence so it looks like you're coming from somewhere else. So it's a great way to change your point of presence so that you're no longer in the physical place that you're at. So anybody that is viewing your web traffic, it appears that you're coming from whatever point of presence. So just some things on the screen for you guys to pay attention to is the delay. So typical rule of thumb when you're using a VPN, choose the location that is physically closest to you, because each one of those countries or cities that you guys see in that screen, these are physical locations of a VPN server. So you can go anywhere. Just keep in mind, the further away, as you guys can see, like in the screenshot, Ireland, it's a little bit of a delay, but not as bad as Indonesia. So, but it's just a good thing to choose the closest place physically to where you're at, and you'll get a good, strong connection. And you guys will, most likely, you won't even notice any sort of delay at all. Again, because we're talking in milliseconds. So this is some screenshots of Viper VPN. So as you guys can see, this is what it looks like when it's connected. And just to show you guys some things you want to be aware of, protocols. Protocols are rules, okay? So when we talk about VPN rules, these are some of the things you guys want to be looking out for. And I think one of you guys had a question about what VPN works best in a car. It's not really the type of VPN that works in the car, it's the protocol that you use. So if you guys look on the right side of that screen, you have this thing called Ike V2. That Ike V2 is designed for cell phones that are constantly hopping from tower to tower on the move all the time. So it is a technology designed for established connections and reestablished connections when you guys are moving from point A to point B. So again, so it's not really a matter of what service you use, it matters what protocol. So if you're looking for that type of performance, that's the feature you want to look for. So I hope that answered your question. Let me see here, standard custom features. I already talked about kill switch, guys. Something else you guys may want to be familiar with is, let me see here. I got to put on my glasses. Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to be old like Kevin, but yeah, you got me. So this is actually not showing it. Would have had to scroll down, but there's a feature called connection per app. So because sometimes you may want to have a VPN running on this service, but not on this service for whatever reason. But connection per app is another feature that you want to look for in a VPN provider. So hope that helps with the VPNs. So last but not least, so when we talk about your home network, and I actually had a funny story for you guys. So yesterday when I came to Fieldcraft, Kevin let me in and he hooked me up to the Wi-Fi network, and out of the whole curiosity and intrigue, and because Kevin's a dear friend of mine, the first thing I did is I tried to hack into his router. And by hack, I just mean I just found out where his router lied on the network, and I was able to get in. And I told him, I was like, Kevin, I can get into your router. I can change anything. I do whatever I want. Yeah. Matter of fact, let's full disclosure. So his password was admin, and and the username was admin. So that's any sort of default passwords. You guys definitely got to get away from that type of stuff. Anything that comes out of the box, change the password. And again, so enough about the password stuff. Fortunately for Kevin, I got here and I got on the Wi-Fi network, and the first thing I did is I checked to see what he did, because if he didn't change the password, I probably would have made an example out of him, maybe for like 24 hours or something like that. So this next one. So situational awareness is a big thing with Fieldcraft Survival. All the courses that they teach with your situational awareness at home needs to include knowing what's on your network at any given time. And Jack, do we have a time hack real quick? Yeah, actually, we're about 10 minutes. We're good. So knowing what's on your network. So I'm going to talk to you guys about this app called Thing. Okay. So it's a mobile app. It's available on iPhone. It's available on Android as well on the Google Play Store. It's free because I like free stuff. I'm sure you guys do too. So what this particular app will do is once you're connected to your Wi-Fi network, you can just say, hey, I want to scan my network. What this will do is it will show you a list of every device that is connected to your network. And what I encourage you guys to do is run this app and see what's on your network and see if you can go physically touch every device that it says is connected to your network. And if you can't, you may want to check and see, hey, what does this thing say on my phone that says, hey, I have an HP laptop, but I don't own an HP laptop. You may want to look around a little bit harder and definitely have situational awareness of what's on your network at any given time. So let's see here. Guest networks, make sure you guys have a guest network. I don't know if you guys have kids or anything like that. One thing I cannot stand is when I have a friend that comes over and the first words out of their mouth is not even hi. It's like, hey, can I get your Wi-Fi password? I'm like, no. But I do have I have this thing called the squatter net, just for friends and people that like to come over and jump on the Wi-Fi, because it's becoming normal culture. But I want your guys' normal to be, hey, yes, I'll give you Wi-Fi, but I'm going to give you my guest network, not my home network. So definitely don't share your passwords. Don't let strangers on. Don't even let friends on. Just having friends on can be a source of compromise. Okay, so I don't have to attack you to get to your networks. If someone's ever been connected to your network, I can attack them. And again, that's part of the hacker mindset. So Fing, great tool. I think, yeah, that's it for the slide presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up your guys' questions and let's see if we can tear through these real quick. Mike, how about VPN for vehicles? So Mike, I think I addressed your question about VPNs for vehicles. So this one's, yeah, I'm going to call that one good. Chris, let's see here, securing, let's see, where'd you go? Securing low-tech Bluetooth devices. Chris, it's kind of a broad question. So when we talk about Bluetooth devices, here's the best advice I can give is, matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up on my phone. So let me go ahead and, because you guys can't see all my messages and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is show you guys a good example of what you should do. All right, so holding my phone up, you guys are used to seeing these little features on your phone. Wi-Fi is on or Bluetooth is on. Bottom line, guys, if you are not actively connected to something like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, turn it off. Make it a part of your everyday life. You get into your car, if you have Bluetooth in your car, good on you. You get out of your car, turn it off. Yeah, you leave your house and you're not connected to your home Wi-Fi, turn it off. These are all radios. These are all different radios that are, number one, they're sucking up your battery. Number two, they're telling everybody else where you've been. That's one of the features I like to do with cell phones, especially, is I like to get a pattern of life on people because I can see everywhere you've been connected in the past. Now, it is getting harder, especially with newer devices, but still very possible. So Chris, thanks for asking the Bluetooth question. I hope I answered it. Mike, for the home network, Proton VPN. Okay, so why does Pat use Viper VPN? So some of my reasons are my own, but one of the reasons I use Viper VPN is because of jurisdiction. Because when we talk about VPNs, I pay attention to what country makes this VPN. So Viper VPN is made by a company called Golden Frog, and they are based out of Switzerland. I'm sure some of you guys have heard the old adage, hey, if you have a boatload of money, you want to store it overseas, where would you store it? You'd store it in a Swiss bank. The reason, if you've heard of that adage, is because the country of Switzerland actually has the world's most strictest privacy laws anywhere. And they apply those same privacy laws to their technology. So things like Viper VPN, Proton VPN, and Proton Mail, they're all Swiss-based companies. So if you are concerned about your privacy and you definitely want, you don't want have any sort of subpoena of any records Swiss-based companies are great for privacy. So I hope to answer your question. Thanks for asking, Mike. Let's see here. What about closing ports? Well, that's a bit of a nerd question, but I'll go ahead and answer that. Closing ports. So when it comes to ports in computers, there's 65,535 ports for every computing device. So it's just a matter, it goes back to that saying that I said, if you don't use it, turn it off. Things like any sort of messaging app, if you're not using it, turn it off. If you don't have web browsers on, turn it off. Because whenever you open a service, it is opening up ports. So Mike, thanks for asking. I hope that answered your question. Hank, when I use Proton VPN on my iPhone, the iPhone stops working. Mike, you want to try the iPhone stops working? Now, to what degree it stops working, I don't know, but so what I would do is change your protocol because there's different protocols. There's going to be IKV2, WireGuard. There's going to be some lower grade protocols that you can use, but I would start there. Change your protocol on Proton VPN, see if it works. Hope that helps. Justin, let's see here. Do mobile device hotspots work similarly to travel routers, or do they create their own issues? They create their own issues. So mobile hotspots, because they are by service providers, it's not widely available to basically flash your own firmware onto a mobile hotspot. I will say this, having your phone as a mobile hotspot, I use it often, and again, use a VPN. So if you want to use a mobile hotspot, by all means, but as far as having any sort of VPN or flashing your hotspot or anything like that, it's not something I'm familiar with. So thanks for asking, Justin. All right, let's see here. Ever heard of Porta? Oh man, here we go. We got some nerdy stuff here. Let's see. Ever heard of PortaPow data blocker to practice safe charging of your device in hotels? PortaPow data blocker. It blocks your USB port, then your charger plugs it into, which no, I haven't heard of it, Scott, but I would definitely look at that PortaPow data blocker. So if I really want to put my tinfoil hat on, I'll grab a Faraday bag and throw my phone in that Faraday bag, and it turns everything off. So but no, I'm not familiar with PortaPow. So let's see. Is ExpressVPN good? ExpressVPN is based out of the British Virgin Islands. I have my own reasons why I don't use it. If you guys go look on something like CNET or PCMag and you do a Google search for the top 10 VPNs, Viper VPN, the one that I use, it doesn't show up on the top 10, but I'm still using it and I will continue to use it. So I will tell you guys, whenever you're on a top 10 list, you can pay to be at the top of that list on Google. It's not hard, especially if you have a boatload of money. Let's see here, Scott. Oh man, let's see here. PS, the device supposedly blocks any data transfer to and from you. Okay. Right, Anonymous. How do these work with 1 gig internet? Is it noticeable difference? Anonymous, let's see here. How do these work? I'm assuming you're talking about VPN. So brother, if you're trying to game or something like that and talk to your friends through a VPN, yes, there will be some lag. If you're just streaming stuff, not likely. So thanks for asking. John Williams, isn't that the guy who wrote the Star Wars music? John Williams. All right, it probably is him. Let's see here. What safety to use when a website will not open and you have to disable VPN to use website? Don't use that website. Some banking sites will not allow me to access when a VPN is on. Again, referring back to the other guy's question, change your protocol. That's what those protocols are designed for. Specifically, if you guys notice on the right side of the screen, there's 4 different protocols listed. And the third one from the top, the one that's named Chameleon, that is an anti-censorship protocol. So it's a lot of these VPN services will have a proprietary technology that allows them to circumvent any sort of blocking or any sort of detection that a VPN is actually being used. So John, hope that helps. Great soundtrack, by the way. Let's see here. Justin, what are the best resources to learn about these topics? So there's so much content out there. I will tell you guys, a good resource is greenhatsolutions.com. But like that plug. That's the only one. Yeah, that's the only one. Some of the YouTube's a great resource. YouTube has all sorts of stuff for tech features. Yeah, I'm not going to plug anybody else but myself. phrasing. That didn't sound good. All right, John Williams, let's see here. Should guest network have a VPN to protect? Hey, yeah, I like my friends, but you know, if I have friends over and they don't want to use a VPN, that's on them. But again, I don't have a lot of friends because I hack them all. So, but yes, I tell my friends use a VPN. So thanks for asking, John. Cecilia, let's see here. Can we set up another conversation to pick your brain? Hit me up at greenhatsolutions.com and just fill out the little contact form, and I will get back to you. I promise. Thanks, Cecilia. Mike, I was in a oh man. If you guys know what TLDR means, it means too long, didn't read. But I'll read it. I'm trying. What's that? The class. Oh yeah, the class. Guys, I definitely want to remind you, there is a live in-person class on the 28th of August. It'll be here at Fieldcraft Survival. What time is it?
It's like 9 to 4, but it's only 10 slots.
Yeah, 9 to 4. There's only 10 slots, guys. They will fill up fast. I definitely want to plug that. It's going to be great. I will be teaching it. So if you like what I'm putting out here, you're definitely going to love what I'm putting out at that class, because I'll be able to show you guys and answer your questions live. And I'll be able to definitely go into the weeds about what you guys have. Can I check my network traffic? Yes, you can. It's called Nmap, or there's all sorts of stuff. You want to learn the hacking stuff, hit me up. I'll teach you. We'll take the red pill together. Do you set up your VPN on a mobile first or a home computer system? Hang on, these questions are moving around. Let's see here. Do I set up my VPN on a mobile first? Yes, I do. I set my VPN up on a mobile first. It requires online account establishment regardless. But yes, I set it up on my phone, have to sign into the same account, and then I'm off and running. Carson, any thoughts on, there you go, on firewall apps like NetGuard, use on phones? Basically, it appears to be good to turn it off. So guys, not going to dive too deep into firewall apps, but bottom line, antivirus, make sure you use it. If you're using more than one antivirus, it's kind of like taking NyQuil and Robitussin at the same time. So just have one piece of one antivirus usually does the trick. If you have Windows, if you're a Windows user, Windows Defender works great. I've tried vehemently to try and crack Windows Defender. I still can't do it, but there's a lot of people smarter than me. But let's see here. Ken, plan to recover from ransomware and preventing it. Use a virtual machine, and that's what I would say. Let's see here. Chris Sanford, hardware recommendations for setting up home networks. Hit me up on Green Hat Solutions. We can talk about hardware configurations because there's too many of them. Jeff Holland, is Face ID a good authentication method? I don't like people taking a picture of my face, so I'm not a fan of it, but biometrics is typically pretty good. I would go ahead and test it against a picture to see if you can hack yourself. And last question is from Mike Dan. Does Viper VPN work well with Mac iOS? I'm using a Mac right now, and I have Viper VPN running on it, so I'm going to go ahead and go with yes. Guys, thanks for attending. I really appreciate your time and your attention. I hope to see you guys again in the future. I'll be running more of these webinars. Again, hit me up on greenhatsolutions.com. Also follow me on Instagram, greenhatsolutions.com, or hit up, by all means, hit up Fieldcraft Survival, North Carolina, and let us know what you think. All right, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. So take care.